Hello and welcome to a single episode of Theorycraft hosted by me, Ben. Normally this would be Ben and Jack, but for the moment it is an episode that I wanted to do because I've been watching the Loki series. Jack hasn't watched much of it just because it doesn't really interest him, but it's something I wanted to try and wrap my head around so far. So we're only 3 episodes deep. We've had, from episode 1, the whole concept of the TVA, which basically deals with irregularities of the timeline and corrects it, and then finds ways of fixing it either via resetting the timeline or basically eradicating the problem at the same time. Then we get revealed that there is a big bad, supposedly, which is another variation of Loki from the timeline that has, for whatever reason, been screwing about with time. So they use the Loki variant from 2012's Avengers Assemble to basically hunt down another version of himself. We get revealed that this version of himself is actually a woman, which is pretty interesting nonetheless. And we sort of meet them and try and figure out what their motives are. And it turns out that there's a lot more to the TVA than a lot of us suspected in the first place. And the one thing that I've seen time and time again in terms of speculation for the theory of the whole show is that the TVA were all variants in the first place that had been wiped and being used for whatever means within the TVA. And I'm normally joined by my co-host Jack. We are normally ranting and raving about random TV series and movies that we both like to rant about. For today, it's me on my own, ranting about the Loki series on Disney+. We are 3 episodes deep, and there's a lot of things that I've seen speculations that have come true, some haven't, some have yet to come true, but I want to deep dive into what's been told this week. So from episode 1, we get told that obviously Loki is a variant on the time stream due to the Avengers mucking about with time. They go and basically screw about with time, leading to Loki escaping with the Time Stone, aka the Tesseract, and so he ends up escaping from the end of the movie that he was originated in Avengers Assemble. So he escapes with the Tesseract, lands in Mongolia, and within a few seconds, the TVA, also known as the Time Variance Association, come along, pick him up, and take them to their headquarters to basically reset the timeline, fix the altercation in which he fluffed up, and put things to right. Now, as we get deeper into what the TVA are, we get revealed that they are apparently originally designed by the Timekeepers to keep an eye on the sacred timeline, the one timeline that keeps all of the universe going from the beginning to the end to make sure that everything happens the way it should, and rightly so. But there is a lot of implication in terms of why that is, which I get to in a moment. So, we get revealed within the end of episode 1 that Loki, the one that we see from the TV series, has been recruited by Owen Wilson's character known as Mobius, who basically is using him to hunt down another rogue variant which has been killing off the Minutemen, also known as the TVA agents, and basically screwing about with what time is. So, with the help of the Loki variant that we already have, we are getting some answers in terms of what's going on, what they're doing wrong, and trying to figure out what to do to bring them down. We end up getting some implications that no matter what you do in terms of, say, a apocalyptic event, say Pompeii or Thor Ragnarok or whatever, like apocalyptic event within history, no matter how much you screw with the timeline, it doesn't change anything because it's all coming to an end in the first place, so your actions have no big changes. So with that information, they go hunting through to the year, I believe it's 2050 something, might be a bit wrong, to a random corporation shopping market known as Rox. I think it's Rox Corp, I'm not sure. Basically, you find out that this variant is also another variation of Loki that has been screwing about with the timeline and using random people within this superstore to communicate with the Loki variant that we're already seeing through the series, to try and toy with him, to try and basically goat him into following behind. So then we get episode 3. And this is where a lot of theories that I've seen online slowly come into fruition. The biggest one of all is that all the people within the TVA, they believe that they were created by the Time Masters to basically keep an eye on the sacred timeline. But the Loki variant has come along and said that nope, they weren't created by the Time Masters, they were actually random people throughout time that were also variants that got mind wiped and basically used as puppets for the TVA's doing. For whatever reason, I have no idea, but I do have some thoughts of what to go from there. The main reason behind keeping an eye on the TVA, well, with the TVA keeping an eye on the timeline, was apparently if there was too many alterations within the timeline, it could create a nexus event which could branch reality into creating the multiverse. And this is where my theories come into fruition. So, during the 90s, obviously, we had Marvel slowly going bust, so the only way they could save themselves was they had to save what little money they could, so they sold off certain character rights into film and movie rights to make some money along the way. So that's why you had different X-Men movies owned by Fox, you had Sony owned Spider-Man, and you also had Fox own the Fantastic Four. But the thing is, whether or not they do have some sort of canonically logic to the rest of the MCU anymore, who knows? But the thing is, the multiverse is not something that could just randomly appear out of nowhere. The multiverse is basically the idea that for every action you have, there are multiple choices that could have gone somewhere else along the way and basically create an alternate reality in terms of where that other option came to fruition. So, my theory is going that the TVA obviously isn't owned by Time Masters, but obviously Kang the Conqueror, who's going to turn up in the new Ant-Man and the Wasp series. But there's also the fact that what if he's been meddling with time before the Avengers were? Obviously he's from the far-flung future, but what if he meddled with time so much that we never got the Fantastic Four, and we never got the X-Men? I know it's an odd one, but bear with me. So, obviously, like I say, those rights were owned by different movie rights, hence why they never appeared until, well, we haven't seen them yet, but they could appear in the MCU in the next few movies soon. So it's trying to figure out where and when they fit in, because they can't just randomly appear out of nowhere, especially the X-Men, considering a lot of the X-Men mutants are technically immortal or have been around for a very long time, such as Apocalypse, Logan, Sabretooth, and other namesake characters. So my thought is, what if Kang decided to meddle with the timeline so much that it meant that they never came to power, so he had less people to fight against? I mean, yes, there was a lot of people when Thanos, during Endgame, fought against them, but there is the implication that obviously Marvel is such an expanded universe. There's so many characters. We've barely got like 5-10% worth of the character list that they actually have within their arsenal of characters. And a lot of them are mostly mutant based. So it begs the question, if they are going to bring them into the MCU, where were they all this time? They can't just randomly appear out of nowhere. And so this is why I could be wrong. At the end of the day, I am no magician when it comes to predicting things. There are a lot of things that me and Jack have said in the past that didn't come true, some did. But the main thing is, obviously, Kang is also known to be meddling with time to make it so that he is the one that is, well, superior to everyone, because that's the whole shtick he has. There is within the comics that he has 3 different personas. He was Ramatut, he was also, I believe, some other conquering character. I'm going to say Genghis Khan, but I could be wrong. But it's one of those things where, when it comes to time travel, people like Kang manipulate events to better themselves so they can be the ones in charge of the world. It doesn't always work because obviously there's the superheroes that save the day. But it does beg the question as to what is going on, because the multiverse is going to be the next big thing within the MCU going forward. Like, we've had WandaVision showing the idea of her breaking reality. We've also got Quantumania with Ant-Man and the Wasp. There is so many things that are coming forward. Like, the multiverse is there. But it's wondering why the TVA exists if it's not to protect the sacred timeline.